everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Kayla Stukins. Today I'm starting a new series. I say I'm starting a new series like I've ever had a series on the channel before. This channel's like brand stinking new, even though there's like uploads from like 7 months ago. But like, that's when I was just like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel. I don't know what for, but I want to start one, so I'm just gonna make random videos, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but now I figured out what I wanted to do. So I'm starting a new series on my channel where I basically read and review books and just tell you my thoughts and kind of what plot points I liked. You know, a regular book review. You know what a book review is, you know? So, yeah, that's what I'm basically going to be doing today. And if it just so happens that I get a lot of subscribers on this YouTube channel, this will probably be the first video you see on my account, because I'll probably go back and delete all the other videos on here because they're embarrassing and kind of stupid and obnoxiously edited. So they'll probably be gone, and if they're not, there's a treat. Or if I don't get a lot of followers or subscribers, I don't know how YouTube works, then that'll be bad for all of us, or maybe just for me, and you'll be none the wiser, you know? So anywho, the first book I'm going to be talking about in my series, so let me step back a second. Also, if my camera is not dizzy, is it not level? Sorry, I'm using my iPhone, so I don't have YouTuber money for the good camera, or any money for the good camera. So, and if I'm not looking in the camera and I'm looking in the wrong place, don't sue me. Don't do it. Okay, anywho. So, I'm probably going to be posting these every Monday. I've been trying to work out my schedule to see when I can post one but first it was Friday, then it was Saturday, then it was Sunday, then I think it's Monday. So this is any other day, or if I've changed it, or if I've stopped doing these videos, I don't know. So there you go. First book, anywho, after I'm on my tangent, first book I'm going to be talking about today, the only book I'm talking about today, the first book in this series I'm doing is going to be 5 Feet Apart. So you probably noticed this from the book cover. This image is kind of everywhere. Oop. Or the movie that came out with this stellar cast. I'll put a picture, or maybe I won't. I don't know. You've probably heard of the movie, right? It's got Cody, Zack and Cody. It's also in Riverdale, and it's got, I think, the guy from Hannah Montana, the Rico, I think is his name, and then it's got Haley Lou Richardson. She's killer. She kills that role, period, right? She is good. Okay, anywho. Alright, so the book, or my copy of it, was 276 pages, so it's a relatively quick and easy read. It's really, the language isn't too complex, even though it does deal with some medical jargon. It's relatively easy to follow, which I enjoyed, even though I'm kind of into like science and sci-fi. Science and sci-fi are not the same thing, but you know what I mean. I love complex stuff. So the story is basically about 2 teenagers. They're both 17. Their names are Will and Stella. They both have cystic fibrosis, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically a life-threatening disease that affects both the lungs and digestive system. And because of the certain bacteria that CF patients, cystic fibrosis is also CF. CF is short for cystic fibrosis, right? So basically, because of the bacteria they have, they're not allowed to be within 6 feet of one another, because if a bacteria mixes, it could be really detrimental to either. It would basically kill them, right? Or make them really bad, health-wise, right? Hence the book title, 5 Feet Apart. That concept of 5 feet instead of 6 feet will come in later though. We'll get there. So the front cover, or the description of the book, basically describes the main characteristics of our two main characters, Will and Stella. So both Stella and Will have cystic fibrosis, like I mentioned before, but they both have really different outlooks or perspectives on the whole situation and on their health. Stella is characterized as someone who very much likes being in control. She takes care of all of her medicine, all of her charts. She takes care of all of that, right? She is also not very prone to take risks that will affect her health. You know, not a risk taker. Will, on the other hand, is very, very different. So he hates being cooped up in hospitals. He has traveled all over the world, basically, but always been confined to a hospital, and he resents that. He wants to see the world, and if he thinks if he's going to eventually die, it's inevitable, he's going to die at a young age, he wants to go out living, you know, instead of just surviving, which is a very important concept in this book, the difference between Will and Stella. Stella is focusing on surviving while Will really wants to live, you know, the difference between really living, you know. Also, if I say you know a lot, I do it, so like, it's whatever the heck. It is what it is, right? Will also has plans when he turns 18 that he is going to basically be able to take care of his own treatment. He's going to leave the hospital and, you know, do what he wants. It's also important to note as well, there's a lot of important things to note. Will has a certain type of cystic fibrosis called B-Cepacia, which is basically a really bad form of it, and it's incurable. I mean, CF is incurable, but there's no coming back from B-Cepacia. It is really bad, so it's even more important for Stella to stay away from Will, because she doesn't want to die, but, you know, love is love, and you can't always help it. You know, she falls in love with the one person she can't have, right? Not the one person, there's a lot of people with CF, but they fall in love with, you know what I mean? Like, it's frustrating, right? Frustrating. But imagine how they feel, you know? It's really sad, you know, that our two protagonists, our two main characters fall in love while their disease is basically pulling them apart. Super cheesy, I know, but deal with it. What do you want from me? Also, I haven't been looking in the camera. I told you I wasn't gonna look in the camera. So just deal with my eyes being everywhere and me scuffling around the screen the entire time. Anywho. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about my thoughts, right? Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is narrative style. So the way this book is basically set up is it is narrated by our two main characters, Will and Stella, in alternating chapters. So basically what that means is the first chapter, also ignore these little sticky note things. They are so ugly, but I didn't have good ones to do this video for, so they're different lengths because I ran out and had to use these really fat ones. Let me try to find one. I need these really fat ones, right? And you can't see anywhere near where I'm trying to point for that sticky note, but it is what it is. So anyway, so what that means, the alternating chapters narrative style is basically the first chapter is named Stella, and all the odd chapters are named Stella, right? So that's her chapter, and she narrates her day, right? Or it's her turn to narrate, right? And then the second chapter, you go to the second one. The second chapter is Will, right? And then it's his narration. So I think that's really cool because we get to see, you know, the internal thought processes of both Will and Stella from them. And it's not like, you know, from an objectively, I don't know, terms. It's not like there's a third person just watching everything happen and then telling you what you're talking about, what they're thinking. It's them accounting it. Which I think is really cool. I think that's really, really cool. And it's really cool. How many times am I going to say cool? I don't know. So, next point. What I really want to go over in this video is character. Because when I read a book, I really am a character reader, right? I really love to see how characters grow from start to finish, and how even characters with the smallest parts, it seems, affect the overall story, and how they even grow within a story or within a chapter or within, you know, even a paragraph sometimes. So that's what I'm gonna do. Go over some of my favorite characters, starting off with Stella. So Stella, like I said before, is very controlling, and that is something that really gets on Will's nerves. You know, it's one of the things that's, you know, setting them apart in the very, very beginning, but it's also one of the reasons why he falls in love, you know? So I want to talk about why Stella is like that and what I liked about that. So we start off the story knowing her parents are divorced, and we operate within the book for a while thinking that it is because of her sickness, of Stella's sickness, and that, you know, she just, they couldn't, the strain of having a sick child grew them apart, right? But later on, we find out it is both because of that, but also because her older sister Abby went basically cliff jumping and died. She drowned, broke her neck and drowned. And she goes through this whole process of feeling guilty. There's even a line in the book where Will says, you know, she is a dying girl with survivor's guilt. You know, she describes how everyone else in her life was ready for her to die. Not ready, but they were expecting it. You know, they knew she was going to die young. She could die any second. Her lungs could give out like that. And she prepared everyone for her death, but she never, ever expected Abby to be the one to die. She never expected to be the one that had to mourn. So when her parents got divorced and her sister died, you know, she thought she lost everyone in her family, and she lost, you know, a sense of innocence. She was already, you know, growing up really quickly, having to deal with this life-threatening disease that she was terminal and there was no getting out of it, and she wasn't going to have the life everyone else had. But now she had to, basically, her parents were divorced, and she had to be the grown-up of the family. Parents were depressed, obviously, and super, super down in the dumps, and they were growing apart because of that, because they couldn't bear to see another kid die, and even though that was going to happen someday down the line. Parents describe, you know, they were talking, having a fight. Basically, they said, I think it was the mom who said to the dad, Stella's dad, basically, every time I look at you, I see Abby, and I can't do that. And the dad was like, well, every time I look at you, I see Stella, and I don't want to leave you, or something like that, you know. But when they got divorced, Stella became the adult of the family, like I said, and she was dealing with reservations and dealing with her bills and her hospital fees, not paying them, but making sure they got paid. You know what I mean? It wasn't her money, but it was making sure they got paid. She was cooking meals and just doing all this stuff and having to be the adult of the family at a very young age. You know, she's had CF since, or she was diagnosed with CF when she was 6 years old. She's grown up in this same hospital for 11 years, you know. I can't imagine what that is, so I completely understand why she needs something to keep her tethered and to keep her feeling like she's in control when her lungs are not in her control. Her health's not in her control, but she can take care of taking her medicine and making sure she's everywhere on time. And she makes a list every single day of what she wants to do that day. And she also has a master list, she calls it, which is what she wants to do, all the things she wants to do in the rest of her life. And sadly, one of them entails going to this place with Abby, but now she's dead and she'll never be able to do that. But we do pay it off in the end of the book, and we see her boarding a flight to go there and to do that with her friends. So it's nice that she was able to move on and to always keep her sister in her heart, but also go out and live a life, right? Perfect. I'll go more into Stella later on, right? But for now, we're going to move to Will. So now we're on Will. So I mentioned before how he's basically traveled the world. His mom has taken him to every hospital she can think of to try to find some cure or some new treatment or drug trial or anything that will, you know, keep him alive for longer. And it's even more of an issue, more a pressing issue, once he developed B. cepacia, which is the really bad case of it, like I mentioned before. And he really resents that his dad left when he was a little boy. You know, before he could get sick, his dad just couldn't handle having a sick kid. Since Will's dad left when he was really young, he's developed abandonment issues, and he's really scared to let anyone in because he thinks they'll just, you know, walk right out of his life. He's scared to make attachments to anybody other than like a fling or something really quick, or that doesn't mean anything, right? He doesn't really have many friends other than his friend Jason and Hope, but we'll get into that later. And you know, he even ends up resenting the people who stay in his life and try to control him. He has, it's assumed, many arguments with his mom, but we only see one big one where basically he accuses his mom of not seeing him for himself, but only his disease. But you know, he soon, it's written really beautiful in the book. He soon comes to realize that he's been doing the same thing. He has been constantly worried about, oh, me, I want to go live my life, I want to go do this, I want to go see the world. That he has not stopped to think, my mom also has a life, you know, and it's me. That's what he says. He says, I've been so focused on how I want to live my own life, I've entirely forgotten that she has one too. You know, it's me. It's a really good realization for him to come across, that his actions affect everyone else around him, you know. As he starts to fall in love with Stella, he realizes that he wants more out of life than just, you know, he wants to live longer for her. You know, he wants to have a life. You know, he doesn't just want to go out in a blaze of glory anymore. He wants to live, survive longer, you know. He wants to get old, which is something he realistically can't have, but he still wants it for Stella, and for, you know, he wants to be with her, but he can't, you know, which is so frustrating, so frustrating. They go, like, you're reading this book and you're seeing them fall in love and have these cute moments and start to open up to one another, and just, it's really cute, but you know that, you know how the book's probably going to end. Either they're going to touch and they're going to die, or they're going to have to split up, which is what they end up doing. Spoiler if you haven't read it, but if you're watching a review for a book, you should have read the book, right? Can we all agree? Right? So another thing I think both the book and the movie did really well is establishing a sense of normalcy, or normal life. Normalcy, is that a word? I don't know. Sense of normal that both Will and Stella have. They both have friends. You know, Will has Jason and his girlfriend Hope, but he's also friends with Hope. And Stella has Maya and Camilla, who are her friends from school, and then she also has Poe, who is another CF patient who she's been friends with since they were basically 6, you know, since they both came in. They've been friends forever. You know, the book shows Stella and Maya and Camilla trying on bikinis, or not trying on, but like picking out bikinis for their school trip that Stella doesn't get to go on, but she still gets to be a part of the fun of packing and of, you know, trying on outfits and meeting boys, and she still gets to do all that, and she FaceTimes with her friends, and now they're super excited about, oh my gosh, you met a cute boy, you know what I mean? They do a really good job of keeping it, you know, she's still just a teenager, you know, while she's dealing with all this stuff that she shouldn't have to, all these health issues and all these bills and just all this stressful stuff. She's also still getting to experience some form of her teenage life, right? I think that's really cute. Same with Will and Jason and Hope. You know, they're still talking about, you know, meeting people and falling in love and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and I really like it. You know, and Stella and Poe, and eventually Will, you know, they go on these adventures, and they wander the hospital like it's their home, because it basically is, you know, and they go swimming and they break into the pool, and, you know, just they work out together, and Will has a scene where he's drawing Stella. It's just really cute to know that they found a sense of, they've managed to make it fun, you know, this terrible thing of being hospitalized. They managed to find some sense of joy in it. I thought it was very beautiful and it was a good message. It was cute. It's cute. It is what it is. It's cute. So now I want to talk about Barb, Queen Barb. I love Barb. She was one of my favorite characters in the book. I loved all of them. Literally all of them have a piece of my heart. right? So Barb is basically Stella and Poe and Will's doctor, right? She's been taking care of them for, you know, since Stella basically got admitted and Poe got admitted when they were 6. You know, she treats them just like her own kids, you know, both in the loving and nurturing sense of it, and, you know, the strict sense of it. She doesn't want to see them die. You know, no doctor wants to see their patients die, but she has really become connected to these kids. You know, there's a scene where she cradles Stella in her arms, or, you know, Stella's sleeping and she puts a blanket over her, and she cares about them immensely. Her journey is also amazing as well. She tells Will about these past CFers that she had in her care, you know, before even Poe and Stella, or maybe when they were younger. It was when she had just started the hospital. So basically, the story goes, there were these 2 patients, this girl and this boy, that were in love, just like Will and Stella were. And instead of following the precautions of keeping them 6 feet apart, she let them get close, or let them hug, or let them whatever, right? And the girl actually had Cepacia, like Will does. And the girl gave the boy B. Cepacia, that bacteria, and the boy was dead within 2 weeks, and the girl lived 10 years but then eventually died. You know, she lost both of those patients, so she vowed never to let that happen again, not on her watch. She was not going to let that happen, especially not to, you know, Will and Stella. You know, her babies, her kids, she's basically raised since they were 6, you know, and seeing them fight tooth and nail since they were 6 to stay alive. I love Barb. I love her. I just have such a respect for doctors that take that extra step to protect their patients and to make sure that they have a good life. You know, she's always joking around with Stella and Will and Poe. You know, even though she claims, like, even though she kind of starts off on a bad foot with Will, she understands at the end, you know. She's just, I don't know, I love Barb. I love her. Okay, next we're gonna talk about my favorite character, I think. I don't know. They're all my favorites. You see, this is the issue. I'm talking about Poe, which is Stella's childhood hospital best friend. They've been friends since they were 6, right? Since they were running around the hospital, you know, with their face mask and running around, you know, and causing all sorts of mischief in the hospital. They've been best friends, right? Poe also has CF, right? And like Will and Stella, he is also afraid to let people in because he's afraid of letting people love him, because he even says in the book and the movie, I think, you know, what do people get for loving me? They get to pay my bills and watch me die. You know, his parents were deported. You know, let's talk about that. He's terminal, right? They know he's gonna die soon, or when he's young, and they deported his parents. What? That infuriates me. That infuriates me. Oh. Anyhow, I'm so mad. Why? And he hasn't even seen them in 2 years. So he goes through this process of not letting anyone in, except for like Stella, but he doesn't want anyone romantically in. But his boyfriend Michael loves him unconditionally, you know, and he finally is able to open up to Michael and to let him love him. And they agree that they're both going to go visit his parents and see them for the first time in 2 years. And he's going to take his boyfriend with him, you know, and he's finally opened up to him. And then, spoilers if you haven't seen this, I click off, right? They killed Poe. They killed him, right? What? He died. Like, what? Why would you do that to me? Why? He died, right? He just died. It's really emotional, right? It's really emotional. They describe her like running through the hallway and screaming like, where's Poe? What's happening? What's going on? She hears the code blue and she knows it's Poe's room, and she's running, and Barb is standing over him like trying to save him, and Barb's like, get her out of here, don't let her in here. And it's super emotional. Like, I was bawling when I was reading this because it's Poe. Like, what? He didn't have, why? I don't understand. So he died. Frustrated, but I guess you could say it was a catalyst towards the end of the book, towards what happened at the end of the book. So let me describe the end and how I like that or not. Oh, I also forgot to talk about the concept of 5 feet apart, right? So basically, I hate these sticky notes. Basically, I love the concept of this. So they have to stay 6 feet apart, but Stella says, CF has taken enough from me. You know, I am not going to let it take anything more. And she gets this pool cue and she like pokes it at Will and is like, I am not letting it take one more foot of my existence. And she says, 5 feet apart, deal? You know, like, it's not gonna take anything else. I'm conquering CF. I am in charge here. We're staying 5 feet apart. And Will and her agree. So that's 5 feet apart. Ugh. Basically, let's talk about the end of the book. So I actually liked the end of the book. It hurt me, obviously, because it was painful, but it was good. So basically, they go on this walk out to the... She wants to go see the lights. And this is the first time they've ever been outside of the hospital together, right? Basically, they're walking, and Stella gets this text that they have new lungs for her, that she's gonna get to live longer. She's getting new lungs. And she has this thought process, you see it in her head, where she's like, I have a choice right now. These lungs or Will. And she chooses Will. There's this moment where she's like running at him, head first at him, and she bumps into him and pushes off him and spins around, and that he says, God, I love you, or something like that. He says, I love you for the first time. And it's beautiful, but she's got close to him, you know what I mean? And then she falls in the lake, right? They have this beautiful moment. I forgot to mention, they're on a sheet of ice on the lake, right? And they're dancing and they're figure skating on their feet, you know, and she falls in. And he pulls her out, and she envisions her sister, Abby, you know, and her sister's basically like, you know, you can come with me or you can go out there and live. And she decides that Stella chooses, you know, basically to live. And Will pulls her out and she's unconscious, and he starts giving her CPR mouth to mouth, which their lips are touching, so he's breathing directly into her mouth, all that bacteria. But he had to save her. You know, he had to keep her alive. He had to risk giving her this B. cepacia, this disease, to save her life. In the book, it's really beautiful. He starts giving her mouth to mouth, and you know, his lungs are not working very well either. And he starts to, not hyperventilate, but he has no more air in his lungs. And he says, you know, the last breath I'm ever gonna give, I give to her, I give to the woman I love. And he gives his last breath to her and falls over and passes out on her. Luckily, they both survive this, but it was such a close call that he vows he's never going to let that happen to her again, right? So he sets up this big light show where she finally gets to see her lights, and he sets it up in her hospital room and buys all of her friends and his friends and their parents and their doctors, and he basically says goodbye in this really adorable way. When it's in his perspective, he says, you know, Stella from 2 weeks ago, Stella from before she met me, would never have thought twice about taking those lungs. She would have never taken those risks. She never would have gone with me outside, you know, right when her lungs might have gotten there. You know, he never would have taken the risk, and he resents himself for that, for doing this to her. But he taught her how to live. He taught her how to care about more than just staying alive for her parents or for her friends or forever. He taught her to survive and live for herself, which is really beautiful. You know, and Stella taught him to survive for himself. You know, he taught her to live, but she taught him to survive. You know, to care about his health and to want to live longer. Like, there's a line in the book where he says, basically, for the first time in my life, I want something I can't have, you know, her. He wants more time with her. Now, when I say I love the ending, like I just rambled on for a while, I mean what I take to be the ending, right? So we get to the very end. Here it goes. He's leaving. This is Stella's perspective. Will's leaving. When I open my eyes, he will be gone. Tears stream down my face, and I feel him walk away much farther than the 5 feet that we agreed on that was always between us. I open my eyes slowly, some part of me still hoping he'll be on the other side of the glass, but all I see are the twinkling lights in the courtyard and a town car in the distance, disappearing into the night. My fingertips reach up, shaking as I touch his lip print lip print on the window, his final kiss goodbye. Now that's how it ended the movie. They left. They are apart now. But in the book, it has this part where it's 8 months later. And it basically entails they meet up again. They see each other at the airport. They're both about to go travel the world. Stella's about to go on the trips that Abby never got to go on, and Will's gonna go see the world with his friends. But they see each other from across the way, and Stella walks up to him, and here's the last line of this part of the book, right? The second ending. They trick you. So I take a deep, unhindered breath and walk over to him, stopping exactly 6 feet away from him. His eyes are warm as he takes me in. No portable oxygen, no difficulty breathing, no nose cannula. I'm practically a different Stella, except for one thing. I smile at him and take just that one more stolen step until we're 5 feet apart. So basically the issue I have with that is, we've already seen their whole love story play out and how it ended, how it had to end, right? And now it's just 8 months later, but it's still going to end the same way. They're either going to die or they're going to have to live apart, 5 feet apart for the rest of their lives, and they resented that. We've already seen the whole story play out and how they left each other, how Will left Stella to protect her, and now they're just going to do it again. So that's supposed to be like a happy, open-ended ending, but like they can't be together. So like, what? What would you, what? Am I supposed to be happy about that? Because that just makes me anxious. Like, they're gonna die or not be able to be together, and we're gonna have to go through the story again. I don't know. I like the ending of the movie where they just cut it and they had him just disappear, and him just leave, right? Yeah. Anywho, so obviously there were a lot of plot points that I missed, but I want to talk about the main ones that I liked, and, you know, I wanted to explain why I like them, and to do that I had to like go through the plot of the movie, of the book. Maybe I didn't have to, but I wanted to. I wanted to. So, you know, it is what it is. I kind of harp on the ending, but I really, really enjoyed the book. It was very beautiful, very easy to read. It was very emotional. It was very hard to read emotionally, but it was, the words, you could understand the words. It was written beautifully. It was written well. You could always tell which chapter you in, who was talking, you know, aside from the names, aside from the name of the chapter. The narrative style was very distinct when it was either Stella or Will, right? It was good. The writers managed to keep it very innocent. You know, it was still like the cute kid love of falling in love for the first time and sneaking around and, you know, falling in love and doing stupid stuff and, you know, loving the little things. It was very cute and innocent and beautiful, you know, when it dealt with those harsher topics, you know, like the inevitability of death. You know, they both knew they were going to die and how they handled that differently. It was just a beautiful story. A beautiful story that made you sob. But don't all perfect stories do that? I think they do. It was beautiful. I don't know. I loved it. So, yeah. I'll see you next week if you're watching. Next week I will be doing The Turn of the Key, a book I just got. So I'm excited for that. Alright. Love you. Bye!